My stepdaughter wants her deadbeat dad to walk her down the aisle after I paid for everything. I've raised Haley for 10 years, paid for her college, $40,000, bought her car, covered her living expenses while she found herself after graduation. Her biological father, Robert, disappeared when she was 8, shows up maybe twice a year, usually broke, always with promises he never keeps. But she worships him like he hung the moon. When Haley got engaged, my girlfriend Maria and I offered to pay for the wedding. Venue for 250 people, open bar, the works, $35,000 budget. You're the best dad ever. Haley hugged me, tears streaming. I'm so lucky to have you. I gave them a list of 20 people to invite. My brother, my business partners, college friends who'd watched Haley grow up. Of course, Maria promised. That's the least we can do. Saturday, I ran into my friend Jim at the golf course. Beautiful announcement, though I was surprised not to get an invitation. What? You're definitely invited. He showed me the announcement from his car. At the bottom, daughter of Maria Henderson and Robert Mitchell. Robert, not me. My name wasn't anywhere. At home, Maria admitted none of my 20 people made the guest list. We had to make cuts. Family comes first. I'm not family? You know what I mean. Blood family. Robert's entire side is invited. The man who hasn't paid a cent of child support? He's her father. I paid for everything. If people decline, maybe we can squeeze 1 or 2 of yours in. I was going to cancel everything. Then Haley called, crying. Please don't be upset about the guest list. You mean everything to me. I need you there. So I swallowed my pride. Sunday dinner with the in-laws. We were discussing flowers when the doorbell rang. Robert walked in, leather jacket, 3-day stubble, reeking of cigarettes and failure. Daddy! Haley flew into his arms. He took my seat at the head of the table. Nobody said anything. Then Haley stood up, tapping her glass. I have amazing news. Daddy called yesterday. He can make the wedding, which means he can walk me down the aisle. The table erupted in congratulations. Maria squeezed Robert's shoulder. Oh, this is wonderful. I sat there, invisible. 10 years of school plays, driving lessons, college move-ins, late-night talks about boys, erased. I stood up. The chair scraped against hardwood. I'd like to make a toast. Everyone raised their glasses, smiling. It's been my pleasure being part of this family for 10 years. I owe the bride a debt of gratitude for opening my eyes to something important. Haley beamed at me. She's shown me my position here isn't what I thought. I believed I was family, someone worthy of respect. Instead, I'm an ATM, good for money, but not much else. The smiles vanished. Since I've been replaced as father of the bride on the invitations and in the ceremony, I'm resigning my financial duties too. Robert, as the real father, I'm sure you'll cover the remaining costs. $28,000. Due Thursday. Robert choked on his beer. What? The venue needs final payment Thursday or you lose the date. This is insane. Maria stood. You can't just... You can all see yourselves out. Of my house. Your house? Maria laughed. My name's on the deed. Check again. I bought this house before we met. You're not on anything. The room exploded. I walked to my office, locked the door, and called the venue. Canceled everything. Lost the deposits, but worth every penny. Monday morning, my lawyer called. Mike, we have a problem. Maria filed an emergency petition claiming common law marriage. We never married. She has documents, insurance forms listing her as your domestic partner. 3 years ago. Maria needed surgery. I'd added her to my insurance. There's more. A will leaving everything to Haley, notarized last month. My blood went cold. I'd been traveling. Maria asked me to sign insurance updates over video call. I'd been distracted, trusted her. Mike, there's something else. About Haley. What? Maria isn't her biological mother. That's impossible. I have the sealed adoption records. Maria adopted Haley when she was 10. The biological mother is listed as deceased, but... Mike, the death certificate was falsified. What are you saying? Haley's real mother is alive. And here's the interesting part. Robert isn't the biological father either. He's Maria's brother. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A woman's voice. Stop digging or everyone finds out what really happened to Haley's parents. Who is this? Check your door. On my porch was a box. Inside, photos of Maria from 15 years ago. Different name, different state. Headlines from newspapers. Couple missing, daughter found alive. The last photo made me drop everything. Maria, Robert, and another couple. The woman looked exactly like Haley. A note at the bottom. They weren't missing. Meet me tonight if you want the truth about who you've been living with. I stare at the note, my hands shaking so bad I almost dropped the whole box. The photos scatter across my kitchen counter. Maria with different hair, younger face, standing next to people who look like they could be Haley's parents. The woman in the picture has Haley's exact smile, same eyes, same everything. The threat keeps playing in my head like a broken record. Stop digging or everyone finds out what really happened. But I can't stop now. I need to know who I've been living with for 10 years. I need to know what they did. I grab my phone and call Donovan back. He answers on the first ring. I tell him about the box, the photos, the newspapers, the meeting demand. My words come out fast and jumbled, but he gets it. He goes quiet for a minute and then says he's coming with me. I start to argue, but he cuts me off. His wife, Megan, is a private investigator, works dangerous cases all the time. If this woman is legit, we need backup. If it's a trap, we definitely need backup. He tells me to text him the address from the note and not to go anywhere until he calls back. 2 hours later, I'm driving 30 miles outside town following GPS directions to some diner I've never heard of. Donovan and Megan follow in their car. It's almost 9 p.m. and the parking lot is nearly empty. Just a few trucks and one sedan. Inside, the place smells like old coffee and fried food. We pick a booth in the back corner where we can see the door. Megan sits facing the entrance, her hand resting near her purse. Donovan spreads the photos from the box across the table. At exactly 9 p.m., a woman walks in. She's maybe 40, dark hair pulled back, wearing jeans and a jacket too heavy for the weather. Her eyes scan the diner twice before landing on our booth. She walks over slow, like she's ready to run any second. She slides into the booth next to me without asking. Up close, I can see she hasn't slept much. Dark circles under her eyes, hands clenched tight around her coffee cup. She introduces herself as Felicia Brady. Says she's been watching Maria and Robert for 15 years, waiting for someone, anyone, to finally question their story. Her voice shakes when she talks. She's been alone with this for so long. No one believed her. No one cared. Until now. Felicia starts talking and I feel sick. She was Haley's nanny back when Haley was 5 years old. Worked for a couple named Jennifer and Thomas Brady. Jennifer was Maria's sister. Robert was Maria's boyfriend then. They were always around, always asking to take Haley on special trips. To the zoo, to the park, to the movies. Jennifer thought it was sweet that her sister wanted to spend time with her niece. Thomas was less sure, but he didn't want to cause family drama. One weekend, Maria and Robert offered to take Haley to an amusement park 3 hours away. Make a whole weekend of it. Stay at a hotel, give Jennifer and Thomas a break. They'd been working hard, dealing with stress. Jennifer finally agreed. Haley was so excited. She packed her little butterfly backpack and couldn't stop talking about the roller coasters. That was the last time Jennifer and Thomas saw their daughter alive. Maria and Robert never brought her back. Jennifer called and called, but their phones were off. She drove to the amusement park, but no one had seen them. She filed a missing persons report. The police started investigating, but Maria and Robert had vanished. Changed their names, moved to a different state, took Haley with them. The investigation went cold within weeks. No leads, no sightings, nothing. Felicia stops talking and pulls out a folder from her bag. Her hands shake as she opens it. Inside are copies of documents, old police reports, newspaper clippings, photos. She slides them across the table. 6 months after Haley disappeared, Jennifer and Thomas were found dead in their home. Police ruled it murder-suicide. Said Thomas shot Jennifer and then himself. Case closed. But Felicia never believed it. She was there the day before, cleaning their house like she did every week even after Haley was gone. Jennifer and Thomas were devastated, but they weren't giving up. They had hired a private investigator. They were getting closer to finding Maria and Robert. And then suddenly they're dead, and it's ruled a murder-suicide within 48 hours. The crime scene was too clean, too convenient, and Maria and Robert had everything to gain from the Bradys being gone. No more people looking for them, no more threat of being caught. And they got access to Haley's trust fund. She shows us more documents. Haley's real birth certificate listing Jennifer and Thomas Brady as her parents. Photos of 5-year-old Haley with her real family. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, beach vacations. The little girl in those photos looks happy, loved, safe. Nothing like the story Maria told me about rescuing Haley from a bad situation. Newspaper clippings about the missing persons case. Articles about the closed murder investigation. Everything Felicia saved before she had to run. Because she got death threats after questioning the murder-suicide ruling. Anonymous calls telling her to shut up or she'd end up like the Bradys. Notes left on her car. Someone broke into her apartment. She reported everything to police, but they said there was no proof. Said she was paranoid. So she moved across the country, changed her name, started over. But she kept watching Maria and Robert from far away, tracking their new identities, watching Haley grow up with the people who kidnapped her and probably killed her parents. I feel sick, actually sick. My stomach turns and I have to breathe through my nose to keep from throwing up right there in the booth. I've been funding these people for 10 years. paying for Haley's life while Maria and Robert lived off money they stole from her real family, money that should have been Haley's. Donovan asks the question I can't get out. Why now? Why come forward after 15 years? Felicia looks at me with tears in her eyes. Because you're the first person who's fought back against them, the first person who saw through their lies. Everyone else just accepted their story, believed whatever they said, but you questioned it. You pushed back. And that gave her hope that maybe, finally, someone would listen. Someone would care enough to dig deeper. Someone would help her get justice for Jennifer and Thomas, and help Haley learn the truth about who she really is. She reaches into her bag again and pulls out a flash drive. Hands it to Donovan. Everything she's collected over 15 years is on there. Financial records showing how Maria and Robert changed their identities. Bank statements proving they've been accessing the Brady Family Trust Fund. Documentation of their criminal history before they kidnapped Haley. Phone records, travel records, everything. She's been building a case alone for 15 years, waiting for the right moment, waiting for someone who could actually do something with the information. And now, finally, she found us. Donovan pulls out his laptop right there in the booth and plugs in the flash drive. His fingers move fast across the keyboard, while Felicia and I sit watching him scroll through files. Bank statements fill the screen. Legal documents, photos, pages and pages of records that prove everything she just told us. He opens a folder labeled Brady Trust, and his eyes go wide. He turns the screen so I can see the numbers. $2.3 million. That's what the trust was worth when Jennifer and Thomas died. Donovan clicks through monthly statements showing withdrawals. 5,000 here, 10,000 there, sometimes 20,000 in a single month. The money flowing into accounts under different names, but the same people controlling it all. Maria and Robert living off Haley's inheritance while telling me they were broke, while I paid for her college and her car and her apartment and everything else she needed. Donovan looks up at me and his face is serious. This is enough to reopen the murder investigation. The identity fraud alone crosses state lines, which makes it federal. The kidnapping, the financial crimes. All of it adds up to something the FBI needs to handle immediately. Felicia grips her coffee cup so hard her knuckles turn white. She's been carrying this alone for 15 years, and now finally someone believes her. Donovan closes the laptop and looks at both of us. We need to organize everything before we approach law enforcement. Get all the documents in order. Build a timeline. Make sure we present this in a way that leaves no room for doubt. He suggests we meet at his office first thing tomorrow morning. Bring everything. Go through it systematically. Then we contact the right people at the FBI. Felicia nods, but then asks the question I've been dreading. What about Haley? Does she know any of this? I have to tell her the truth. Haley thinks Maria and Robert are her real family. She worships Robert like he's some kind of hero, even though he's been absent most of her life. She has no idea she was kidnapped. No memory of her real parents. Maria and Robert have spent 15 years making sure she never questions the story they told her. Felicia starts crying again. Quiet tears running down her face while she stares at the table. Her best friend's daughter has been living with murderers and doesn't even know it. I pay the check, and we walk out to the parking lot together. The night air feels cold after the warmth of the diner. Donovan shakes Felicia's hand and promises we'll fix this. Get justice for Jennifer and Thomas. Make sure Maria and Robert pay for what they did. Felicia gets in her car and drives away, taillights disappearing down the dark road. Donovan tells me to be careful. Maria and Robert don't know we have this information yet, but if they suspect anything, they might run. Or worse. I drive home alone with my mind racing. Every stoplight feels too long. Every dark stretch of road makes me check my mirrors. The flash drive sits in my pocket like it weighs 100 pounds. Evidence of murder and kidnapping and 15 years of lies. When I get home, the house is empty and quiet. Maria moved out after I kicked her out that night at dinner. Haley's staying with friends while the wedding drama plays out. I'm alone with the truth and I can't tell anyone yet. Can't warn Haley that the people she loves are monsters. Can't let Maria and Robert know I'm coming for them. I have to protect Haley from this until law enforcement gets involved. If Maria and Robert figure out what I know, they might disappear again. Take Haley with them this time, or do something worse to keep their secret safe. I lock all the doors and check the windows, set the alarm system. Then I go to my office and plug the flash drive into my computer. I need to see everything Felicia collected. Understand exactly what Maria and Robert did. The first folder I open is labeled Haley Early Years. Photos load on the screen and my breath catches. A little girl with blonde curls and a huge smile, maybe 3 or 4 years old. She's sitting on a woman's lap. The woman has the same blonde hair, the same smile, the same eyes. Jennifer Brady looks exactly like Haley. The resemblance is so strong it's almost painful to see. More photos. Birthday parties with homemade cakes. Christmas mornings with presents piled under a tree. Beach vacations with Haley building sandcastles. A man with dark hair lifting her onto his shoulders. Thomas Brady. Her real father. The love in these photos is obvious. These weren't people who neglected their daughter. They adored her. Documented every moment. Gave her the kind of childhood every kid deserves. And then Maria and Robert took her away and erased all of it. I scroll through dozens of photos. Haley at the park. Haley learning to ride a bike. Haley in a dance recital wearing a pink tutu. Every image shows a happy little girl with parents who cherished her. Nothing like the story Maria told me about rescuing Haley from a bad situation. That was just another lie in a mountain of lies. I open the financial records next. The Brady Family Trust was set up by Jennifer's parents. Money meant to pay for Haley's education, her future, give her security and opportunities. Maria and Robert have been draining it systematically for 15 years. The records show they changed their identities 3 months after taking Haley. New social security numbers, new driver's licenses, new birth certificates for all 3 of them. They wiped out the Brady family and started fresh with stolen identities and stolen money. The monthly withdrawals add up to over $1.8 million. They've been living off Haley's inheritance while I covered her actual living expenses. Every time Robert showed up broke asking for help, he had access to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Every time Maria claimed we needed to budget carefully, she was spending Haley's trust fund on herself. I paid $40,000 for Haley's college, while Maria and Robert spent her inheritance on cars and vacations and whatever else they wanted. I feel sick looking at the numbers, seeing exactly how they used me, how they used Haley. I spent the whole night going through files, reading police reports from the original investigation, looking at crime scene photos from when Jennifer and Thomas were found dead. The reports say murder-suicide. Thomas supposedly shot Jennifer and then himself. But the notes Felicia included point out all the problems with that theory. The angle of the gunshot wounds, the lack of gunpowder residue in the right places, the fact that Thomas had no history of violence or mental illness, the convenient timing just 6 months after Haley disappeared. By the time the sun comes up, I've read everything twice, memorized the timeline, understood exactly what Maria and Robert did and how they got away with it for so long. They killed 2 people to keep a little girl and her trust fund. Then they spent 15 years living off that blood money while pretending to be her family. I close the laptop and sit in the dark office for a long time. My phone lights up on the desk. 17 missed calls from Maria, all in the last 2 hours. The voicemails pile up one after another. I press play on the first one, and her voice explodes through the speaker. "Mike, call me back right now. We need to talk about what you think you're doing." The second message is louder. "You can't just abandon Haley like this. She's devastated. Call me immediately." By the 5th message, she's screaming. "You're ruining her life, everything she's planned for. You're destroying this family because of your stupid pride." I delete them all without listening to the rest. My finger hovers over her contact. Part of me wants to tell her I know everything, that I've seen the photos and the newspaper headlines and the adoption records, that I know she and Robert stole Haley from her real parents, but Cameron's warning rings in my head. They might run if they know we're closing in. I press call. Maria answers before the first ring finishes. "Finally! Do you have any idea what you've put Haley through?" "I got your messages. Then you know you need to fix this. The venue, the catering, everything. You can't just cancel a wedding because your feelings got hurt." "My feelings got hurt?" I keep my voice flat, emotionless. "That's what you think this is about? What else would it be about? Robert showing up? You've always been jealous of him." The audacity of it makes my jaw clench. She's standing there lying to my face while I'm looking at evidence that she and her brother murdered 2 people. I need time to think about everything. "There's nothing to think about. Haley needs you. She's your daughter." "Is she?" The words slip out before I can stop them. Silence on the other end. Long enough that I can hear her breathing change. What kind of question is that? Just something I've been wondering about lately. I force myself to sound tired instead of angry. About what family really means. "Mike, you're not making sense. Are you drinking?" "I'm completely sober. Maybe for the first time in 10 years. Look, Robert is willing to let this go. He understands you were upset. If you apologize to Haley and reinstate the wedding funding, we can all move past this. Robert is willing to forgive me. The man who helped kill Haley's real parents is willing to forgive me for not paying for a wedding. That's generous of him. So you'll do it? You'll call the venue tomorrow and get everything back on track?" I said I need time to think. "How much time?" Her voice gets sharp, demanding. "The venue won't hold the date forever. We need to make decisions now. I'll let you know when I'm ready." "Mike, don't do this. Don't punish Haley because you're angry at me and Robert. She loves you. She needs you there. I love her too. That's why I need to figure some things out first." What things? What are you talking about? I have to go, Maria. I'll call you when I'm ready to talk. I hang up before she can respond. My hands are shaking. The phone rings again immediately. I silence it and set it face down on the desk. 3 minutes later, it buzzes with a text, then another, then 5 more in rapid succession. I don't read any of them. The phone rings again. Different number this time. Haley. I stare at her name on the screen. My chest tightens. She has no idea what Maria and Robert did. She thinks I'm the bad guy right now, the one who ruined her wedding over hurt feelings. I answer, Mike? Her voice is thick with crying. Please, I don't understand what's happening. Haley. Hearing her break something inside me. This girl I raised for 10 years, fed and clothed and drove to the school every morning, helped with homework and taught to drive and moved into her college dorm. I know you're upset. Upset? My wedding is canceled. Everything I planned is gone. Why are you doing this to me? I'm not trying to hurt you. Then why? Because Robert is walking me down the aisle? Is that really worth destroying everything? I close my eyes. She sounds so young, so confused. It's more complicated than that. Then explain it to me. Make me understand why you would do something so cruel. I can't explain it right now, not yet, but I need you to trust me that I have good reasons. Good reasons? What possible reason could justify this? Haley, please. I love you. You have to believe that everything I'm doing is because I love you. If you loved me, you wouldn't abandon me right before my wedding. I'm not abandoning you. I'm trying to protect you. Protect me from what? From being happy? From marrying the man I love? From people who aren't what they seem. The words come out before I can stop them. What does that mean? I can't tell you yet. Soon, but not yet. You're not making any sense. Maria said you were acting crazy and she's right. What else did Maria say? That you're jealous of Robert, that you can't handle not being the center of attention, that you're trying to control me by threatening to take away the wedding. Of course that's what Maria said, turning Haley against me, making sure she doesn't question anything. Is that what you think? I don't know what to think. You've never acted like this before. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Even if you don't understand right now, can you trust that I'm doing what's best for you? How can I trust you when you won't even tell me what's going on? Because in 10 years, have I ever done anything that wasn't in your best interest? Have I ever let you down when it mattered? She's quiet for a long moment. I can hear her breathing, trying to calm down. No, you haven't. Then trust me now. Give me some time to work through some things. I promise I'll explain everything soon. How soon? I don't know yet, but soon. What about the wedding? Let's not worry about the wedding right now. Focus on your fiancé, on your relationship. Make sure that's solid before you worry about venues and flowers. But we already lost the deposit. We lost everything. Money isn't the problem. It never was. Then what is the problem? I have to go, Haley. I love you. Remember that. No matter what happens, I love you, and I'm on your side. Mike, wait. I hang up. My throat feels tight. The phone immediately starts ringing again. I turn it off completely and set it in the desk drawer. The silence in the office is heavy, suffocating. My other phone buzzes, the one I use for work. Cameron's number shows on the screen. Cameron. Mike. The surveillance team has something. Robert met someone at a storage facility about an hour ago, unit number 247 on the east side of town. What was he doing there? Checking on something. He was inside for 20 minutes. When he came out, he looked around multiple times like he was making sure nobody followed him. Classic behavior for someone accessing hidden evidence. Can you search it? Getting a warrant now. Judge is reviewing the request. We should have approval by morning. What do you think is in there? Based on the timeline? My guess is documents. Evidence they couldn't destroy but needed to keep. Maybe financial records or personal items from the Bradys that they couldn't bring themselves to throw away. When will you execute the warrant? Tomorrow morning, early, before Robert has a chance to move anything if he suspects we're onto him. Can I be there? No. This is an active investigation. You need to stay clear of the operational side. But you'll call me after? As soon as we inventory what we find. Get some sleep, Mike. Tomorrow might be a long day. He hangs up. I sit in the dark office staring at the wall. Somewhere across town, Robert has a storage unit full of secrets. Evidence of what he and Maria did 15 years ago. Proof that they killed 2 people and stole their daughter. Tomorrow, Cameron will find it. Tomorrow, this whole thing moves from theory to evidence. Tomorrow, everything changes. I pull the flash drive from my laptop and lock it in the desk safe. The photos of Jennifer and Thomas Brady stare up at me from the desk. Haley's real parents. Dead because Maria and Robert wanted money and a child. I gather up all the papers and photos and put them in the safe too. Lock it tight. The house is too quiet when I leave the office. Too empty. I check all the locks twice. Set the alarm. Go upstairs and lie in bed fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep doesn't come. Every time I close my eyes, I see Haley's face when she was 8 years old. When Maria first brought her around. How shy she was. How she called me Mr. and Mike for the first 6 months. I raised someone else's stolen daughter. Fed her and clothed her and loved her while her real parents were dead in the ground. While Maria and Robert spent her inheritance and pretended to be her family. My phone buzzes from the nightstand. I turned it back on without thinking. Text from Maria. We need to talk in person. Tomorrow. This is important. I delete it without responding. Another text comes through. Robert wants to apologize. Let's all sit down together and work this out. I turn the phone off again. Tomorrow, Cameron searches that storage unit. Tomorrow, we find out exactly what Robert has been hiding. Tomorrow, this nightmare moves one step closer to the truth. The next morning, my phone rings at 6. Cameron's voice is tense, excited. We found it. Everything. Everything? Boxes of documents, financial records from the Brady Family Trust, Jennifer's jewelry, Thomas's personal effects, and Mike. There are notes. Detailed notes in Robert's handwriting about how they planned the whole thing. My stomach drops. Notes about the murder? About everything. How they researched staging a murder scene. How they practiced the setup. How they planned to take Haley immediately after. It's all there, written down in his own hand. Jesus. There's more. He wrote about the trust fund, about how it would set them up for life, about how Haley would never remember her real parents anyway. He called her the brat in multiple entries. The room spins. I sit down hard on the bed. He called her the brat? His exact words were, the brat will never remember her real parents anyway. This was 15 years ago, when Haley was 5 years old. Can you arrest him? Already done. Picked him up at his apartment 30 minutes ago. He's in custody now. What did he say? Nothing. Lawyered up immediately, but his face when I showed him photos of the storage unit contents, he knew it was over. What about Maria? That's next. I wanted to secure Robert first. We're picking her up this morning. Where? Her workplace. We'll execute the arrest there. Cameron, Haley's going to find out. This is going to be everywhere. I know. That's why we need to move fast. Get ahead of the story. Control the narrative before Maria and Robert's lawyers start spinning it. When can I tell Haley? After we arrest Maria. Give us a few hours. Then we'll set up a meeting. You, me, Haley, and the trauma counselor. We'll tell her everything together. She's going to be destroyed. I know. But she deserves the truth. And she deserves to know her real parents loved her. That they died trying to find her. I hang up and sit on the edge of the bed. My hands won't stop shaking. 2 hours. In 2 hours, Maria will be arrested. In 2 hours, this whole thing becomes real. Becomes public. Becomes something Haley has to face. The phone rings again. Maria. I answer. What? Mike, something's wrong. Robert was arrested this morning. The police came to his apartment and took him away. Arrested for what? I don't know. They won't tell me anything. I need you to help pay for a lawyer. He needs representation immediately. I'm not helping Robert with anything. What? Mike, he's family. He needs our help. He's not my family, and after today, he won't be yours either. What are you talking about? Mike, what's going on? You'll find out soon enough. Find out what? Mike, you're scaring me. What did you do? I didn't do anything. I just stopped looking the other way. Looking the other way at what? At who you really are. At what you and Robert really did. Silence. Long and heavy. Then her voice changes. Gets cold. Calculated. I don't know what you think you know, but you're making a mistake. A big one. The only mistake I made was trusting you for 10 years. If you don't help Robert, I'll take you to court. The common law marriage claim. The will. I'll take everything you have. Go ahead and try. I'll see you in court. Right after you get out of jail. I hang up. Block her number. 2 hours later, my phone rings again. Cameron. It's done. Maria's in custody. Her coworkers watched the whole thing. It's already spreading through town. How did she react? Denied everything. Claimed it was all a misunderstanding. Started threatening lawsuits before we even got her in the car. But when I mentioned the storage unit, her face went white. What happens now? Booking, processing, they'll both be arraigned tomorrow. Charges are murder, conspiracy, kidnapping, identity fraud. The prosecutor is going for maximum sentences. And Haley? Can you bring her to my office this evening? 6 o'clock? We have the trauma counselor standing by. I'll try. She's not answering my calls. Keep trying. She needs to hear this from us before she hears it from someone else. I spend the afternoon calling Haley. Every call goes to voicemail. Every text goes unanswered. By 5 o'clock, I'm desperate enough to drive to her apartment. Her car is in the parking lot. I knock on the door. She opens it looking exhausted. Her eyes are red from crying. What do you want? I need you to come with me. Right now. It's important. I'm not going anywhere with you. Not after what you did. Haley, please. I know you're angry. But you need to hear what I have to say. What the police have to say. The police? What are you talking about? Your parents were arrested today. Both of them. And there are things you need to know. Things about them. About you. About everything. Her face goes pale. What things? Come with me. Please. I'll explain everything. I promise. She stares at me for a long moment, then grabs her keys and follows me to the car. The drive to Cameron's office is silent. She sits in the passenger seat with her arms crossed, staring out the window, not looking at me. At Cameron's office, the trauma counselor is waiting, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes. She introduces herself and leads us to a conference room. Cameron is already there, files spread across the table. Haley sits down slowly, looking at everyone like she's waiting for someone to explain why her whole world is falling apart. Cameron starts talking, gentle but direct, explaining about the investigation, about what they found, about who Maria and Robert really are. Haley's face goes from confused to disbelieving to horrified. She shakes her head, stands up, sits back down. Her hands grip the edge of the table. When Cameron finishes, she looks at me. You knew. This whole time, you knew. I just found out a few days ago. I've been trying to protect you. Protect me? By canceling my wedding? By making me think you were the bad guy? I couldn't tell you until we had proof, until we had them in custody. She stands up again, walks to the window, stares out at the parking lot. I don't believe this. I don't believe any of this. The counselor moves beside her, speaking quietly, offering support, but Haley just shakes her head over and over. This isn't real. This can't be real. Cameron shows her photos, documents, evidence, each piece making her face go paler, making her breathing get faster. Finally, she runs to the trash can and throws up. The counselor holds her hair back, rubs her back, tells her it's okay to be overwhelmed. When Haley can stand again, she looks at me. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted to, every second of every day, but I needed to make sure you were safe first. Safe from who? From the people I thought were my parents? From people who killed your real parents, who stole you, who've been lying to you your whole life. She sinks into the chair, puts her head in her hands. I don't know who I am anymore. You're Haley. That hasn't changed. Everything has changed. Everything I thought I knew about myself is a lie. The counselor kneels beside her chair. Haley, none of this is your fault. You were a victim, a child who was taken from people who loved you. I don't remember them. I don't remember any of it. That's normal. Most people don't remember much from before age 5 or 6, but your real parents loved you. The evidence shows that clearly. Haley looks up at Cameron. Can I see it? The evidence? Everything? Yes, but maybe not all at once. This is a lot to process. I want to see it. All of it. I need to know the truth. Cameron nods, starts pulling files from his briefcase. Photos of Jennifer and Thomas Brady. Photos of 5-year-old Haley with them. Financial records. Police reports. Everything. Haley goes through each piece slowly, her hands shaking, tears running down her face. When she sees a photo of herself as a little girl with Jennifer, she makes a sound like something breaking inside her. She looks like me. She was your mother, your real mother, and they killed her. Maria and Robert killed her and took me. Yes. She looks at me. Did you know? When you met me? Did you know I was stolen? No, I swear. I had no idea until a few days ago. I thought you were Maria's biological daughter. But you raised me anyway, even though we weren't related. You were 8 years old and you needed someone. I loved you from the first day I met you. Do you still? Even now that you know the truth? Haley, you're my daughter. Blood doesn't change that. Nothing changes that. She starts crying again, harder this time. The counselor sits beside her, lets her cry, doesn't try to stop it or fix it, just stays there, present, supportive. After a long time, Haley wipes her eyes. What happens now? Cameron explains the legal process, the charges, the trial, what she'll need to do, how long it will take. Haley listens, nods, asks questions, her voice getting stronger as she processes, as she starts to understand the reality of what happened to her. When we finally leave Cameron's office, it's almost 9 at night. Haley follows me to my car, gets in without being asked. Can I stay at your house tonight? I don't want to be alone. Of course. Stay as long as you need. We drive home in silence. Inside, I set her up in the guest room. Give her some of my old clothes to sleep in. Make her tea she doesn't drink. She sits on the guest bed looking lost. Everything I thought I knew about my life is wrong. Not everything. I'm still here. That's real. You're the only thing that is. She looks up at me. Thank you. For not giving up on me. For finding the truth. I'll always be here for you. No matter what. She nods, lies down on the bed fully clothed, curls up on her side. I leave the door open and go to my own room. Knowing sleep won't come tonight. Knowing Haley's life just shattered into a million pieces. Knowing tomorrow we start putting it back together. One truth at a time. The next morning, I wake up to find Haley already awake, sitting at the kitchen table staring at nothing. Her eyes are red and puffy, her hair tangled. She doesn't look at me when I come in. I make coffee, put a cup in front of her. She doesn't touch it. She starts crying again without warning, tears just streaming down her face. Her whole body shakes. She tells me her wedding is ruined, her life is falling apart. Everything she thought she knew is wrong. I sit across from her, wanting to tell her the truth so badly it physically hurts. But Cameron was clear. Wait until we have the full case built. Wait until support services are in place. Wait until we can help her process this properly. So I just hold her hand and let her cry, knowing that what's coming will shatter her even more completely than she can imagine right now. Cameron calls that afternoon while Haley is sleeping in the guest room. He scheduled a meeting for the following week. Me, Haley, Felicia, and a trauma counselor who works with kidnapping victims. His voice is serious when he explains that Haley needs to learn the truth in a controlled environment with professional support immediately available. He says we can't wait much longer because the case is moving forward and she'll hear things from other sources if we don't tell her soon. I agree, even though the thought of watching her world end makes me feel sick. He gives me the counselor's contact information and tells me to prepare myself for the worst emotional reaction I've ever seen. Haley will need me to be strong when everything inside her breaks. I spend the next 3 days gathering everything Haley might need to hear. Cameron sends me digital files, photos of her with Jennifer and Thomas Brady when she was tiny, a little girl with blonde pigtails sitting on her father's shoulders, the same girl helping her mother paint at an easel, birthday parties with cakes shaped like butterflies, Christmas mornings with mountains of presents. I print them all out, put them in a folder with shaking hands. I research who Jennifer and Thomas were. Jennifer taught art at the local community college. Thomas was a high school English teacher who coached debate team. They volunteered at animal shelters. They donated to children's charities. The newspaper articles about their deaths described them as beloved community members. Everyone who knew them said they were devoted parents who adored their daughter. I find Jennifer's obituary online. It mentions Haley by name, says she was the light of Jennifer's life. Reading it makes me want to put my fist through a wall. The day before the meeting, my phone rings with an unknown number. A woman introduces herself as Sloane Chapman, forensic accountant working with Cameron's team. She's finished analyzing the trust fund. Her voice is professional, but I can hear the anger underneath. Maria and Robert have spent over $1.8 million in 15 years, properties in 3 different states, luxury cars they kept registered under fake company names, trips to Europe and the Caribbean, a boat they barely used, investment accounts they drained for cash, all of it funded by money that belonged to Haley, money her real parents left for her future. Sloane walks me through the numbers and each one feels like another betrayal. They told me they were broke. They let me pay for everything while they lived off Haley's inheritance like parasites. Sloane explains the legal situation in terms I can understand. Haley is entitled to whatever remains of the trust plus damages from Maria and Robert for the stolen funds. She estimates Haley could recover at least $500,000, maybe more depending on what assets can be seized. But it will take years of legal proceedings. Years of Haley having to relive this betrayal in courtrooms and depositions. Years of fighting for money that should have always been hers. Sloane promises to make Maria and Robert pay for every penny they stole, but I can hear in her voice that she knows money won't fix what they did to Haley. Nothing can give back the parents they murdered, or the childhood they stole. The meeting day arrives too fast and too slow at the same time. I drive to Haley's apartment to pick her up, my stomach in knots. She comes out looking defensive, arms crossed, jaw set. She gets in the car and immediately starts talking about how there must be a mistake. Maria and Robert would never do anything seriously wrong. They're her parents. They love her. I let her talk, don't argue, just drive toward Cameron's office while she builds a wall of denial around herself. She says the police must have confused them with someone else. She says maybe it's identity theft. She says anything except the truth that's waiting for her. At Cameron's office, we walk into a conference room where 3 people are already sitting. Cameron stands up first, shakes Haley's hand gently. Then I see Felicia rise from her chair, and her eyes fill with tears the second she looks at Haley. Haley stares at her, confused, clearly not recognizing this woman who's crying at the sight of her. Felicia's voice breaks when she speaks, telling Haley she was such a sweet little girl who loved butterflies and always asked for strawberry pancakes. Haley looks at me with complete confusion written across her face. She has no idea who this woman is, or why she's talking about her childhood like she was there. Cameron guides Haley to a chair next to the counselor, a calm woman in her 50s who introduces herself and explains she's here to help Haley process some difficult information. Haley's getting more agitated now, demanding to know what's going on, why everyone is acting so weird. Cameron starts talking in the gentlest voice I've ever heard from him. He tells Haley that Maria and Robert aren't who she thinks they are, that her real parents were Jennifer and Thomas Brady. Haley laughs nervously, a sound with no humor in it. She says that's impossible. That's crazy. But her smile fades as Cameron reaches into his briefcase and pulls out a document, the original birth certificate. Haley Marie Brady, born to Jennifer Ann Brady and Thomas Robert Brady. Haley takes it with trembling hands and stares at names she doesn't recognize. Cameron shows her photos next. 5-year-old Haley with people who look like strangers. A woman with blonde hair like Haley's, holding a little girl on her lap. A man with kind eyes, pushing that same little girl on a swing. Haley goes completely silent. Her face drains of color. She stares at the images of herself with people she doesn't remember, and I watch her try to make sense of something that makes no sense. The counselor speaks quietly beside her, explaining that young children often don't retain memories from before age 5 or 6, that it's normal not to remember, that her brain was protecting her from trauma. Haley's hands shake so badly the photos slip from her fingers. Felicia starts talking through her tears. She describes what Haley was like as a little girl, how she had a stuffed rabbit named Mr. Hops that she carried everywhere, how she was scared of thunderstorms but loved the rain, how she called her mother Mama Jenny and insisted on wearing princess dresses to the grocery store, how she collected rocks and thought every butterfly was magic. Haley starts shaking harder, her whole body trembling. Something is breaking loose inside her. Fragments of buried memories clearly surfacing. She whispers something about a yellow room, about strawberry pancakes, about a rabbit. Her voice cracks on every word, and tears start streaming down her face as pieces of a life she forgot begin forcing their way back into her consciousness. Cameron takes a breath, and his expression changes to something heavier, more careful. He tells Haley there's more she needs to know about Jennifer and Thomas. They were found 6 months after she disappeared. Haley's face goes white, and she asks what he means by found. Cameron says their bodies were discovered in their home, staged to look like a murder-suicide. But investigators now believe Maria and Robert killed them. Haley lurches forward and grabs the trash can beside her chair, vomiting violently while the counselor moves closer and puts a hand on her back. The room fills with the sound of Haley retching and crying at the same time, her entire body shaking as everything she thought was real crashes down around her. She wipes her mouth with tissues the counselor hands her and keeps saying no over and over, shaking her head like she can physically reject the information. I sit frozen in my chair watching the girl I raised for 10 years learn that her whole life was built on kidnapping and murder, that the people she called family killed her real parents and stole her. The counselor speaks quietly to Haley, helping her breathe, keeping her grounded as the shock rolls through her in waves. Haley suddenly looks at me with red, swollen eyes and asks if I knew about any of this. I tell her I just found out days ago, that I had no idea what Maria and Robert really were, that I'm so sorry I couldn't protect her from this. She starts crying harder, and I want to go to her, but I don't know if she wants me near her right now, if I represent safety or just another lie in her destroyed world. Haley pulls herself together enough to ask about Robert, her voice cracking on his name. Cameron explains carefully that Robert isn't her biological father at all. He's Maria's brother. They created the whole absent father story to explain why he showed up occasionally, why he was part of her life but not really present. It gave them a cover story while they hid from law enforcement, while they spent 15 years pretending to be a normal family. Haley stares at Cameron like he's speaking another language. She says that's impossible, that Robert is her dad, that he's always been her dad even if he wasn't around much. Cameron shows her more documents, DNA test results that prove Robert and Haley share no biological connection. Haley looks at the papers and then throws them across the room, standing up so fast her chair falls backward. The counselor stays calm, telling Haley it's okay to be angry, that everything she's feeling is valid and normal. Haley screams that nothing about this is normal, that her entire life is a lie, that she doesn't know who she is anymore. Cameron waits until Haley sits back down, breathing hard, before he continues. He spreads documents across the table and starts walking her through everything, piece by piece, giving her time to process each new detail. He shows her the original missing persons report filed by Jennifer and Thomas. He shows her the investigation files, the witness statements, the timeline of when Maria and Robert disappeared with 5-year-old Haley. He shows her financial records proving Maria and Robert changed their identities and moved across state lines. Haley cycles through every emotion possible in the next 2 hours. She denies everything, saying the documents must be fake or wrong. Then she gets angry, yelling at Cameron for lying to her, for making up this horrible story. Then she breaks down sobbing, grieving for parents she can't remember, and a childhood that was stolen from her. The counselor guides her through each wave, never rushing her, always giving her space to feel whatever comes up. Cameron answers every question Haley asks, no matter how many times she asks the same things, patient and gentle even when Haley screams at him. Felicia speaks up for the first time in a while, her voice soft but steady. She tells Haley that Jennifer and Thomas tried desperately to find her. They never gave up hope, never stopped searching, never stopped believing their daughter was alive somewhere. Their last 6 months were consumed with looking for Haley, following every possible lead, begging police for help, hiring private investigators they couldn't afford. Felicia's voice breaks when she says they died still searching, still hoping, still loving the daughter they lost. Haley sobs so hard she can barely breathe, hearing that her real parents died looking for her while she lived with the people who took her. She asks why they didn't find her, why nobody found her, why she had to grow up with murderers instead of the parents who loved her. Felicia wipes her own tears and says Maria and Robert were careful, that they planned everything perfectly, that they knew how to hide and how to create a life that looked normal from the outside. She says that's why it took so long for anyone to question their story, why I was the first person in 15 years to actually dig into the truth. The meeting finally ends after almost 3 hours. Haley looks destroyed, her face blotchy and swollen, her hands still shaking. She tells Cameron she wants to see everything, all the evidence, all the documents, every piece of proof that her life was a lie. Cameron agrees and says he'll arrange for her to review everything at her own pace over the next few days, always with the counselor present for support. He gives her his direct number and tells her to call anytime, day or night, if she has questions or just needs to talk. Haley takes the card with trembling fingers and stares at it like she's never seen a business card before. The counselor sets up appointments for the next several days, telling Haley they'll work through this together, that she's not alone in processing this trauma. Felicia approaches Haley carefully and asks if she can hug her. Haley hesitates, then nods, and Felicia wraps her arms around the girl who was stolen from the family she worked 15 years ago. They both cry while Cameron and the counselor give them space. I drive Haley back to my house because she can't be alone right now, and she has nowhere else to go. She sits in the passenger seat staring out the window, not speaking, barely moving. I try to think of something to say that would help, but there's nothing. No words that can fix learning your entire life was built on lies and murder. At home, I set her up in the guest room, bringing her water and tissues and telling her I'm right downstairs if she needs anything. She sits on the edge of the bed holding her phone, and I see Cameron has already sent her photos of the Bradys. She scrolls through images of herself as a little girl with people who look like strangers, people who were her real parents but exist now only in pictures. I leave her alone because she clearly needs space to process everything that just shattered her world. Hours pass, and Haley doesn't come out of the guest room. I check on her twice, and both times she's in the same position, sitting on the bed staring at her phone screen, tears running down her face. Night falls, and I'm sitting in the kitchen when I finally hear her footsteps on the stairs. She comes in looking exhausted and lost, her eyes red from crying for hours. She sits across from me at the table and asks in a small voice if I still consider her my daughter, even though we're not related by blood, even though I'm not her real father. I tell her that I raised her, that I loved her, that I was there for every important moment of her life for 10 years, and that will never change regardless of what Maria and Robert did. I tell her she's my daughter in every way that matters, that biology doesn't erase a decade of being her dad. She starts crying again, but softer this time, and she says she's glad I'm still here because she doesn't know who she is anymore or what parts of her life were real. Haley asks about the wedding, and her voice cracks on the word. I tell her gently that her fiancé deserves to know the truth before they move forward, that she needs to tell him what happened and what she's dealing with. Haley nods slowly and says she's not sure she can marry anyone right now anyway. She says she doesn't know who Haley is anymore, doesn't know what parts of her personality were really hers versus things Maria and Robert manufactured or encouraged. She doesn't know if her memories are real or if they were planted or twisted over the years. She doesn't know if the person her fiancé fell in love with is even real or just a construct built by kidnappers. I tell her she's real, that the person she became is real even if the foundation was built on lies. But I understand needing time to figure out who she is, separate from Maria and Robert's influence. The next week moves slowly as Haley meets with the counselor every single day. Cameron sends her access to a secure portal where she can review all the evidence at her own pace, and she spends hours going through documents and photos and reports. She learns that Jennifer was an artist who painted watercolors of landscapes and sold them at local markets. She learns that Thomas was a high school history teacher who coached soccer and was beloved by his students. She learns they were devoted parents who documented every moment of her early childhood in journals and videos, who threw elaborate birthday parties and took her to the zoo every month, and read her stories every night. She watches videos of herself as a toddler, laughing and playing with parents she doesn't remember, and cries seeing the love in their faces every time they looked at her. Cameron sends Haley a secure link to his evidence portal the next day. She sits at my kitchen table with her laptop and clicks through folders of files. I watch from across the room as she opens a video file marked Brady Birthday 1998, MP4, and the screen fills with footage of a backyard party. A little girl with pigtails runs across grass toward a pink cake shaped like a castle. The woman behind the camera laughs and calls out, asking if she's ready to make a wish. Haley's hand flies to her mouth. The little girl on screen is clearly her, maybe 3 years old, wearing a yellow dress with butterflies on it. The man kneeling beside her helps her blow out candles while the woman filming keeps saying how proud she is of her big girl. Haley replays it 3 times before she starts crying. She calls me over and points at the screen. She says she remembers that yellow dress. She remembers butterflies. I sit beside her and she tells me about a bedroom with yellow walls and butterfly wallpaper. She remembers a stuffed rabbit she called Mr. Hops who wore a blue vest. She remembers someone singing a song about ladybugs at bedtime. The memories come in pieces, fragments that don't connect to anything else she knows about her childhood. She watches more videos over the next hour. Her first steps. Christmas morning with wrapping paper everywhere. A trip to the zoo where she fed giraffes. Each video shows parents who clearly loved her, who documented everything, who looked at her like she was their whole world. When she finally closes the laptop, her face is wet and her hands won't stop shaking. She asks if those people really loved her, or if she's making it up based on what she's seeing. I tell her the love is obvious in every frame, that Jennifer and Thomas adored her. She nods slowly and says she wishes she could remember them properly instead of just these broken pieces. My phone rings 2 days later. Detective Mauricio Glass introduces himself and asks if he can meet with Haley and me that afternoon. We drive to the police station, and he leads us to a conference room where files cover an entire table. He explains he's been reviewing the original investigation into Jennifer and Thomas Brady's deaths from 15 years ago. The case was ruled a murder-suicide within 3 weeks. Thomas supposedly shot Jennifer and then himself, but Mauricio pulled the original crime scene photos and forensic reports and found problems. The angle of Thomas's wound doesn't match a self-inflicted shot. The gun was wiped clean of prints when a suicide victim wouldn't wipe down their weapon. Jennifer's body showed defensive wounds that weren't properly documented in the original report. The detective who handled the case retired 6 months after closing it and bought a house in Florida that cost 3 times his annual salary. Mauricio says the evidence points to a double homicide that was covered up. He's formally reopening the case and working with Cameron to build charges against Maria and Robert for the murders, in addition to the kidnapping. Haley sits perfectly still through the entire explanation. When Mauricio finishes, she asks in a small voice if her real parents suffered. He's honest. He says yes, they likely knew what was happening. Haley gets up and walks out of the conference room. I find her in the hallway leaning against the wall with her eyes closed. She says she can't breathe thinking about Jennifer and Thomas dying while looking for her. She says Maria and Robert didn't just steal her childhood, they murdered the people who actually loved her. I don't know what to say that wouldn't sound empty, so I just stand there until she's ready to leave. 3 days later, Haley comes downstairs dressed in black and asks if I'll drive her to see her parents' graves. I didn't know she'd looked up where they were buried. The cemetery is 3 hours north in a small town. We don't talk much during the drive. She stares out the window at passing farmland and small towns. When we arrive, she uses her phone to navigate through rows of headstones until she finds a simple gray marker with both their names. Jennifer Ann Brady, 1970 to 2008. Thomas Robert Brady, 1968 to 2008. Beloved parents. Haley stands in front of it for a long time without moving. Then she drops to her knees on the grass and starts sobbing. I stay back about 20 feet to give her privacy. She talks to the headstone for over an hour. I can't hear most of what she says, but I catch pieces. She tells them she's sorry she doesn't remember them. She apologizes for living with the people who killed them. She describes her college graduation and her engagement and the life she built while they were gone. She cries so hard at one point that she can barely speak, her whole body shaking with it. When she finally stands up, her knees are grass-stained and her face is red and swollen. On the drive back, she asks about the trust fund. She wants to know if Maria and Robert took everything. I explain what Sloan discovered about them draining nearly $2 million over 15 years. They bought properties, cars, took vacations, all funded by money that was supposed to be Haley's inheritance from her parents. Haley sits quiet for a few miles, then says she doesn't want any money that's connected to how her parents died. I tell her I understand that feeling, but Jennifer and Thomas set that money aside specifically for her future. They wanted her to have opportunities and security. Taking back what Maria and Robert stole isn't accepting blood money, it's honoring what her real parents wanted for her. She thinks about this and finally nods. She says she'll talk to Sloan about recovering whatever's left, but she wants to donate a lot of it to organizations that help kidnapping victims. She wants something good to come from all this horror. Back at my house that evening, Haley makes a phone call. I hear her talking to her fiancé in the living room. Her voice is steady but sad. She tells him she needs to end their engagement. She explains that she doesn't know who she is anymore, that the person he fell in love with was built on lies she didn't know about. She says she needs time to figure out her real identity before she can promise her life to anyone. I hear him respond, his voice muffled through the wall, and he sounds understanding but clearly hurt. They talk for 20 minutes. When she comes into the kitchen, she's not crying. She just looks exhausted. She says he was kind about it, that he wants to stay friends and be there for her, but they both know the relationship is over. She takes off her engagement ring and puts it in a small box. She says it feels wrong wearing it when she doesn't even know what her real last name should be. Cameron calls a week later with news about Maria and Robert's legal situation. Their lawyer tried negotiating a plea deal. He offered to have them plead guilty to kidnapping in exchange for dropping the murder charges. The prosecutor shut it down immediately. Cameron says the evidence is too strong and the crime's too serious for any deals. The case is going to trial, probably in about 6 months. Haley will need to testify about her kidnapping and the 15 years she spent living with them. She'll need to describe how they presented themselves as her family and how she had no idea she'd been taken from her real parents. Cameron warns that the defense will try to claim Maria, and Robert rescued her from neglectful parents and gave her a better life. He says we need to be ready for them to twist everything. Haley listens to all this on speakerphone and says she'll testify. She says Jennifer and Thomas deserve justice, and she's not going to let Maria and Robert lie their way out of what they did. The counselor recommends Haley increase her therapy to 3 times a week. She needs help working through layers of trauma that keep revealing themselves. She's grieving parents she can't remember. She's processing that her entire childhood was a lie. She's dealing with identity issues about who she really is versus who Maria and Robert shaped her to be. The counselor explains this kind of healing takes years, not months. Haley will probably struggle with trust issues, attachment problems, and questions about her own memories for a long time. But the counselor also says Haley is showing remarkable strength in facing all this instead of running from it. Haley starts going to her appointments religiously. She comes home each time looking drained, but says it helps to talk through everything with someone who understands complex trauma. She starts journaling between sessions, trying to sort through what memories are real versus what might have been planted or altered by Maria and Robert over the years. 2 months pass. Maria and Robert remain in jail without bail. Haley slowly adjusts to her new reality. One morning, she asks if I can help her contact Felicia. She wants to meet with her privately, just the 2 of them, to learn more about Jennifer and Thomas. I give her Felicia's number and she calls that afternoon. They arrange to meet at a coffee shop the next day. Haley goes alone. She's gone for 4 hours. When she comes back, she's carrying a photo album, and her eyes are red, but she's smiling slightly. She tells me Felicia brought dozens of pictures and spent the whole time sharing stories. She learned that Jennifer painted watercolor landscapes and sold them at craft fairs. Thomas coached youth soccer and was known for making history lessons fun with dramatic reenactments. They met in college and got married young because they knew immediately they wanted to spend their lives together. Haley was their miracle baby after years of trying to conceive. Felicia described how they threw elaborate birthday parties, took monthly trips to the zoo, and read Haley 3 stories every single night before bed. She says hearing these details makes her parents feel more real, less like strangers from old photographs. The next week, Felicia visits my house with 2 large boxes. She explains she saved these items before the Brady house was sold after the murders. Inside are Jennifer's art supplies, watercolor paints, brushes of different sizes, sketchbooks filled with landscape studies. There are also Thomas's favorite books, history texts with notes in the margins, novels with worn covers, a journal where he planned his lessons. Haley lifts out a paintbrush with dried blue paint on the bristles and starts crying. She holds it like it's the most precious thing in the world. Felicia also pulls out a stuffed rabbit with a blue vest. She says this is Mr. Hops, that Haley carried him everywhere when she was little. Haley clutches the rabbit to her chest and sobs. Felicia promises to help her remember everything possible about Jennifer and Thomas. She says she'll share every story, every detail, every moment she witnessed. She wants Haley to know her real parents, even if she can't remember them herself. 3 weeks later, Cameron calls to schedule a meeting about the trial preparation. The trial date got set for 6 months out, which feels like forever, but Cameron says it's actually fast for a case this complicated. He needs to prepare Haley for what's coming, what the defense lawyers will ask, how the courtroom process works. We meet at his office on a Tuesday afternoon. Haley sits next to me, fidgeting with a bracelet Felicia gave her that belonged to Jennifer. Cameron spreads out folders across the conference table and explains that Haley will need to testify about everything. Her earliest memories, the life Maria and Robert created for her, what it felt like learning the truth. The defense will try to make her doubt her own memories, question whether Jennifer and Thomas were good parents. They'll suggest Maria saved her from a bad situation. Haley's face goes pale, but she nods. Cameron says they'll do practice sessions, mock cross-examinations, so she knows what to expect. He warns that it won't be easy, that the defense lawyers will be aggressive because their clients are facing life in prison. But the evidence is strong, and her testimony will help the jury understand the human cost of what Maria and Robert did. Haley asks how long the trial will take, and Cameron estimates 3 to 4 weeks. After the meeting, Haley stays quiet the whole drive home. 2 days later, an envelope arrives at my house addressed to Haley. The return address shows Maria's lawyer's office. Haley opens it carefully and pulls out a handwritten letter on yellow legal paper. I watch her face change as she reads. Her hands start shaking. She reads it twice, then looks at me with tears streaming down her face. Maria wrote that she saved Haley from neglectful parents who left her alone for hours, who forgot to feed her, who cared more about their art and teaching than their own daughter. She claims Jennifer was unstable, and Thomas was having an affair. She says taking Haley was an act of love, giving her a better life than she would have had. Haley crumples the letter in her fist and walks to the fireplace. She lights the gas starter and holds the paper over the flames until it catches. The yellow paper curls and blackens. She tells me more letters arrived while she was at therapy yesterday, but she threw them away without reading them. She doesn't want to hear Maria's justifications for murder and kidnapping. Nothing Maria says can make it okay. Felicia told her stories about Jennifer and Thomas, real stories about parents who loved their daughter completely. She's not going to let Maria's lies poison those memories. A week later, Cameron forwards me an email from Robert's defense lawyer. They're trying a different approach now. The lawyer claims Robert was manipulated by Maria, that he didn't participate in the actual murders, that he was just a foolish man in love who went along with his sister's plan. Cameron asks me to come to his office to review evidence that proves otherwise. I drive over that afternoon, and Cameron pulls up files on his computer. Police found Robert's handwriting in the planning notes from the storage unit, detailed descriptions of how to stage the crime scene, what tools they would need, when to strike. Maria's handwriting appears in some sections, but Robert wrote most of it. Cameron shows me phone records from 15 years ago, proving Robert made calls to scope out the Brady house, checking their schedule, noting when they were home alone. He researched security systems and home layouts. The forensic evidence from the Brady house shows 2 different sets of fingerprints at the scene. Both Robert and Maria were there. Cameron says Robert was actually the primary planner, and his attempt to blame Maria is falling apart fast. The prosecutor plans to present all this at trial. Robert's lawyer is grasping at straws because they know they're going to lose. 3 months pass in a blur of therapy sessions and legal meetings. Haley makes a decision that surprises everyone. She files paperwork to legally change her name back to Haley Brady, reclaiming her real family identity. The court date arrives on a cold morning in November. The judge reviews her petition and asks why she wants to make this change. Haley stands and explains that she spent 18 years living under a stolen identity, raised by people who murdered her real parents. She wants to honor Jennifer and Thomas by carrying their name forward. But she also wants to honor the man who actually raised her, who paid for her life and loved her when he didn't have to. She asks the judge to make her full legal name Haley Brady, with my last name as her middle name. She says I'm the only father who actually raised her, and that means something permanent. The judge approves the petition immediately. Outside the courthouse, Haley hugs me and says she finally knows who she is. Not the person Maria and Robert tried to create, but someone real, built from truth instead of lies. The trial begins on a Monday in February. The courthouse fills with people, reporters, family members of both Maria and Robert. Over 3 weeks, prosecutors present the overwhelming evidence. Crime scene photos, financial records, the planning notes in Robert's handwriting, testimony from forensic experts. They bring in the detective who originally investigated the Brady deaths and explain how Maria and Robert fooled everyone. Felicia testifies about the kidnapping, about Jennifer and Thomas's desperate search for their daughter. On the 8th day, Haley takes the stand. She wears a simple blue dress and speaks clearly into the microphone. She describes her childhood with Maria and Robert, the lies she was told, the false memories they created. She talks about worshiping Robert as her father, while he spent money that belonged to her real parents. She explains the trauma of learning the truth, of realizing her entire life was built on murder. The defense lawyers try to shake her testimony, but she stays steady and strong. She tells the jury that Maria and Robert stole everything from her. Her parents, her identity, her inheritance, her past. But they couldn't steal who she really is inside. The courtroom goes completely silent when she finishes. The jury gets the case on a Thursday afternoon. They come back Friday morning after only 6 hours of discussion. The verdict comes fast and decisive. Guilty on all counts for both Maria and Robert. First-degree murder for Jennifer and Thomas Brady. Kidnapping. Identity fraud. Conspiracy. Financial crimes. The judge schedules sentencing for 2 weeks later. When that day comes, the judge doesn't hesitate. Life in prison without possibility of parole for the murders. Additional sentences for kidnapping, fraud, and identity theft running one after another. Maria will die in prison. Robert will die in prison. They'll never walk free, never hurt anyone else, never profit from what they did. Maria screams at the judge that she saved Haley, that she was a better mother than Jennifer ever was. The bailiffs drag her out, still screaming. Robert just sits there staring at nothing, finally understanding that his life is over. After sentencing, Haley asks if we can visit the Brady graves. Felicia drives up from the city to meet us. The three of us stand at the headstone together on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Jennifer Ann Brady and Thomas Robert Brady, beloved parents. Haley places fresh flowers on the ground and kneels in the grass. She tells them out loud that justice was served, that the people who killed them will never leave prison. She promises to honor their memory by living honestly, by building a life they would be proud of. She says she wishes she remembered them better, but Felicia is helping her learn who they were. She's going to make sure their legacy lives on through her. Felicia puts her hand on Haley's shoulder and adds that Jennifer and Thomas loved Haley more than anything in the world. Taking care of their daughter, even in death, is what they would want. We stay for an hour, Haley telling her parents about her life, about therapy, about reclaiming her real name. When we finally leave, she seems lighter somehow, like she's starting to heal. 6 months after the trial ends, Haley's life looks completely different. She enrolled in art classes at the community college, exploring her mother's passion for painting. She's working part-time at a bookstore, saving money, building independence. She goes to therapy twice a week still, working through the complex trauma of everything that happened. She lives with me while she figures out her new identity, and we've created a real family based on honesty and choice instead of lies and manipulation. She started dating someone new, a guy from her art class who knows her whole story and accepts all of it. She introduced him to me last week, and he seems genuine, kind, nothing like the fake family she grew up with. Healing is slow and hard. Some days she cries about the parents she never got to know. Some days she's angry at the years Maria and Robert stole. But she's building a future as Haley Brady, surrounded by people who truly care about her well-being. She's painting landscapes like Jennifer did, reading history books like Thomas loved, and slowly becoming the person she was always meant to be before 2 murderers tried to erase her real family forever.